don't know everybody else. They'll probably come late, some of them.
Okay.
So here they come.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good evening, all.
Good evening.
Evening.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming tonight. I am Aya Johnson, and I'll be sort of moderating this session today. I remind everybody, please keep your mics on mute unless you're called upon to speak. We will be recording this and streaming it to the Facebook group. So there might be others on Facebook who would have some comments or questions that I will be including. Feel free to use a chat function for the most part if you have questions and comments and concerns you want us to address. And we will start tonight with comments that were actually sent in advance in the RSVP form that all of you filled in or should have filled in. Before we do that, I wanted to let you know who's in the room from the Education Department. The Commissioner of Education is here, Mrs. Richards, Jacqueline Eve, who is a registration officer, and I can't introduce you, Ms. Jombwe. She's here as a parent. We were going to have health people, but they are not available due to their work responsibilities at the moment.
Mr. Johnson, Dr.
Yes.
Talbot is also online, one of our school psychologists.
Sorry, who's that?
Dr. Lana Talbot is online with us, one of our
Oh, yes, sorry. Dr. Talbot, school psychologist.
Can't miss her out. Plays a critical role.
Yes, exactly. It would be actually very nice if we could have your cameras on, please. As a courtesy to the other participants.
I'll turn mine on as soon as I finish eating.
All right. At least you've got your full name there. That's the other courtesy we're trying to establish. Gina's iPhone. Should we just call you Mrs. iPhone? Does everybody know how to change the name, rename their display name? I did speak to one parent who said she couldn't have a camera on because she's actually at work, but listening in to the meeting. So that's understandable. Okay, we're going to get started. Mrs. Richards, could you just sort of say a few words and then we'll go right through to the questions, the topics that have been flagged.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Johnson. Good evening to our parents and guardians who've taken time out to come online this evening. We're delighted to be able to engage with you. This evening's session is really about checking in. We want to know how your children are doing, how they're making out. We want to know how you're doing. We want to be able to respond to any questions, any concerns, any recommendations. And so really this session is about you and meeting your needs tonight. I encourage you to feel free to ask any questions, and we're going to do our best to respond to those. If we don't have answers, we will get them, and actually We're going to have a meeting on Friday. We're going to pull it all together, and then we're going to be sending responses out to each of the school level groups. So please feel free to share, to ask. This is really about you. This is about your children. So I'm going to turn it back to Mr. Johnson so we can maximize our time.
Great. Okay, the first comment here is it's a question that keeps coming up. Cedar Bridge Academy, why cannot the students enter the school before 8:30 a.m.? And why are teachers not all using Google Classroom?
The school day, for the first question, why cannot students enter before 8:30 a.m.? The school would have established protocols and procedures starting at 8:30 a.m. That is the standard time that schools are starting their operations. And so therefore, students would not be able to go into the building prior to. It's my understanding that the operational procedures, the entry screening, starts at 8:30 a.m. Teachers are also contracted to work from 8:30 to 3:30 a.m. We cannot require them to be on duty prior to. We also have to recognize that there are staff who will also be parents and will have to take care of children and go through procedures as well. And so, and arrive at school for that 8:30 kickoff. And so that is why we have the 8:30 for those reasons, and there would be more as well. I don't know if the parent or guardian who asked the question is online, Mr. Johnson, but I don't know if there's any follow-up comment or question around the comments that I shared.
Jean Norville? No, I don't think she's
Gina
here.
Norville, she is
Oh, okay.
online.
Hi, Ms. Richards, can you hear
Hi,
me?
Mrs. Norville. Did you have any follow-up questions around the 8:30 matter?
No, I didn't have any questions. My comment is that when I drop my kids off at 8:30, it just seems as if the children are just hanging out and there's no social distancing going on. So I just had a bit of concern about that. That's all. There's no teachers out there, and I understand them being on the contractual agreement and all that, but in terms of the students being outside at 8:30, no social distancing, they're hanging out and just waiting for that 8:30 move into inside the building. That's a concern of mine.
So just to be clear, and thank you for that clarification, the students are there before 8:30, you're saying?
Yes.
And that during that time, there's no social, right, and there's no adult. And unfortunately,
That's right.
there's not going to be an adult. I think we will definitely pass on the feedback to the school, because somehow the message has to be reinforced with the students that once you come onto the premises, and ideally they should not be there before 8:30. So this is an issue that the school is going to have to address. I'm concerned because what you're saying is they're not distancing. More than likely, I'm sure some probably don't have their mask on at that time as well. And
yeah,
so
some of them, but the majority of them do.
that's good.
Yes, majority of them do have that. It's just, they're with their friends, they're hanging out,
One of the things, and maybe we can talk about it a little later on with you as parents during this session, is how do we help our students to understand that COVID is serious? There are some adults and some students, by extension, who say, oh, it's not serious, and they're not taking it seriously. And what we have to understand, even if an individual chooses not to take it seriously, they have to understand that someone with a compromised immune system, someone with underlying health issues, that COVID could hospitalize them, could even result in, unfortunately, their death. And so our students, somehow we have to help them to understand that this really is a safety and health matter, and they have to be more responsible. So we can hopefully talk about, I guess that will be my question, Mr. Johnson, and we can table that a little later.
Yeah.
The second one, and this is for Cedar Ridge, all teachers are not using Google Classroom. Mrs. Norville, are they using something instead, or they're just?
Not to my knowledge. The majority of them do have things on Google Classroom, but there are some teachers that have nothing there.
So they are connected, set up for Google Classroom, but there's nothing posted, no work, etc.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not, okay, so they're not posting. All righty. Have you had an opportunity yet to send anything to the teachers about that?
No, I have not.
Okay, so we're going to, as a follow-up from here, we will, from our angle and from my level, I'll be sending a note to the principal. But if you can, about monitoring and reminding teachers that they need to be posting, and if you can send something to the teachers, that would be awesome.
Yes, I'll do that. Thank you.
You are certainly welcome, and thank you, Mrs. Norville.
You're welcome.
So there was something about power schools, a related issue. This parent says some teachers find it difficult to respond in power school when messages are sent to them.
We will certainly pass that on as well. And I encourage the parent or guard. First of all, I want to applaud the parent and guardians who are using Power School to send messages. You may have to send an email to the teacher to say, can you check Power School? We're hoping more and more teachers will use it, but we'll send a follow-up email to both principals to give reminders to staff to check their Power School notices or messages from parents.
Okay, and another parent wants to know about how are we dealing with or handling children who are not coping well with the online classes or just not handling the new norm very well. Are you actively working with parents to help the children?
How are we handling students who are not coping well with the online classes or just not coping under the current situation? And
Yeah.
before I give a response, Mr. Johnson, do we have the survey data for the senior level?
We do.
So we can share that a little later on tonight.
Yes.
So one of the things as parents or guardians, it is important for you to bring to the attention of the schools any challenges. I know, for example, there's a particular matter that has risen to my level that I'm working to resolve around a student who's having some challenges with, just being online and not being in school for the full days. Anytime an issue arises, the first step that should be taken is to bring it to the attention of someone at the school. And what I would recommend is that you bring it to the attention of your child's year level counselor, that you start there, that you have the conversation, and then the counselor will then work with you to look at how we can, what strategy intervention plan can be put into place. The issue of students not responding well to the remote learning really we have to look at that. We're balancing that piece with the amount of children who can be in school at any one time. And so it's really a tough call because we recognize that schools have to have certain measures in place to ensure safety. And that means looking at the number of children who are in school or in classrooms at any given time. And they're trying to really balance, how do we balance this demand for, this increased demand for more children to be on site when we know that we really can't accommodate them safely. So that's what schools are struggling with. We're struggling with that as well. And I think as we look at it, I think parents and the school are going to have to work together, and you may want to start around the classes that are most challenging and to say, you know, what can be done here? Is there anything that can be done to address the challenges that my child is having with online learning with this class, because this is the most difficult. But start with the counselor, be open, be very honest, so that he or she can get the full picture and take it from there. We have the Dr. Talbot is online with us this evening. She's one of our school psychologists, and I would really like to hear from her. You know, Dr. Talbot, is there anything that you would add or encourage parents to do around this particular issue?
It's just a lot of noise. I lost some of what was said.
The question is, there are some students who are not coping well with the online classes, or may not be coping well. My recommendation was to start with speaking with the counselor, be very honest about what's going on, and work with the counselor to find, you know, a resolution. I was also saying that we're trying to balance this with, you know, if the schools have to monitor the number of children on site at any given time. So they're trying to balance that with requests for, oh, my child is not managing the remote learning well. So it's a difficult situation. And I suggested that perhaps parents start with the most challenging class that is online and work with the school and counselor to find a solution. But I wondered if you could add something there.
I would recommend that the parents make contact with the classroom teacher, because perhaps that student probably may need a little one-on-one time with the teacher, if that's possible, as well as perhaps providing the student with a package to go home, whereby some of the work that they're working on can be done using hard copies initially, and then using the online just to reinforce the concepts that are being taught. Some students don't do well remotely in remote learning, and some do well. So therefore, adjustments need to be made for those particular students who are challenged with learning remotely.
Thanks, Dr. Talbot. And I think one of the things that we have to keep in mind is we really have to, I want us to also think about what's coming in the future for our senior students as they look to transition to college and university, that I think that COVID has not only changed the way that schools do business, but I think some universities and schools may have what we call hybrid models even going forward, and that students are going to have to do online learning. And so they're going to have to, you know, acquire the strategies that are going to help them to be successful if one or more courses are online or remote. And I think this is a good time to start doing that at the senior level as they prepare to make that transition to post-secondary education.
I would agree with that. For some students, there will be an adjustment period.
Yes.
I think with contact with the classroom teacher and letting the teacher know how the student is progressing with online learning would be very significant for the student as they move forward in the future, because we don't know how long this particular environment we're in is going to last. And yes, you're right, lots of classes are now being held online. It's not replacing the classroom teacher in any way, but it is a way of making sure the students are still receiving a certain level of learning and carrying on with what they would normally have to do throughout the course of the year. So I believe just calling the school counselor, getting the resources set in the school to assist, I think that would be the key. And explaining specifically to the teacher and to the counselor what the specific challenge is with the student online learning.
Thank you,
Okay, I
Dr.
believe
Taylor.
Mr. Wilson has his hand up. Mr. Wilson?
Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Richards.
Good evening, Mr. Wilson. How are you?
Good, good. I'm gonna go backward a little bit because we was talking about the part where we talked about the children coming into school and
Yes.
and us as parents have to sit there and teach our children about, you know, social distancing and the seriousness of COVID. Now, the problem that I do have is that we can sit there and instill that in them as parents, but that at the end of the day, right, we sit there and we put our children on these mini buses and they pack them in these mini buses like sardines. So there's no social distancing at all. Now, I can't, I haven't seen that with my own eyes, but my son, I asked my son about it and he did say that the buses are full. And I think some of the other children have said the same thing. So what I'm saying is that we're trying to tell them social distance, but then the adults in the school or the adult on the bus is then packing them all into a bus because we don't have enough mini buses. So it doesn't make sense.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson, for the feedback. This particular scenario has come up with our primary parents and with our middle, and it's a matter that I will take to the Department of Transportation. It's of grave concern to parents and to us, so we really need to find a solution around the minibuses and what's taking place. And we'll be able to link back with you in terms of the outcome of taking it forward, Mr. Wilson, because we're going to be posting information on the school level Facebook pages, and we're going to put it in the Scoop newsletter as we report back to parents on the matters we had to follow up on coming out of these sessions.
Thank you.
You're certainly welcome.
There's a question here in the chat. Are senior schools ready to go to remote learning once the school is closed due to persons having COVID-19?
The senior schools are presently operating, they're running, they're using a hybrid learning model. They have the students who are 16 and under on site from Monday to Friday, and they have students rotating in and out for the other years. While teachers are teaching, they're navigating students in front of them as well as students who are at home. If any level is positioned for immediate transition to remote learning, it would be our senior schools.
Oh. Okay, and a concern about S3 and S4 students at Berkeley not able to attend school 5 days a week. That's from Simonette Tyrrell. Ms. Tyrrell, can you?
Yes, Ms. Tyrrell's on, Mrs. Tyrrell, sorry, is
She's here.
online. Yes.
Can you elaborate on that, please?
I guess it's the same thing. So the children are actually going to school just 2 days a week. Berkeley has just amended last week. So now they're doing 2 days a week for S3 and S4, and then they're now added every other Monday. So every other week they're now in school 3 days. So they've also changed it because initially the S3s, which my daughter is actually in S3, they were separated. So they were never, all the S3s were not going to school together. So some were going Tuesday, Wednesday, and some were going Thursday, Friday. They've changed that just last week. So by the time we had sent this information, but it's changed where they're all going to school on Tuesday, Wednesday now, and every other Monday. So it's just, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out like how long are we just going to go with this process with them not being able to all go to school for the 5 days? If we're going to continue with the, with the online for the 2 days. And now we've just, like I said, we've just switched to another 2 days, which for some children it works. Like my daughter, it's fine because she does fine. She does okay, but I just can't. I know it's got to be a significant amount of children that are just getting lost in the shuffle. So it is very concerning. So I don't know if you have these stats from Berkeley either, but I know that out of the S3s and S4s, the amount of, like, the numbers were very low for children who were actually logging in on Monday. So that's why they tried to do this every other Monday, but the numbers are not good. The children are not doing the online like they should.
So Mrs. Terrell, this school adjusted the schedule. They've added a Monday, but also they adjusted the days that the S3s are coming in as well. So there's been that transition, there's been an addition and then a transition and adjustment. But you're saying that students are not logging in for online lessons on Mondays, the additional day, or just in general for start?
No, just in general. So I think that's why they've made the change to add the Monday. So they had one, I guess the stats that they're using, so they just have reported to us as to the PTA that they had noticed that it was a significant drop on Mondays. So that's why they've added the every other Monday. So the students know, so we'll have to see that only, like I said, it literally just started last week. So we'll have to see how that goes. So the S4s went last week and the S3s went this week. So then we'll see if the numbers improve. But I mean, you had the children that didn't come to school normally, but now you have the children that just are not, because they're not online. And I mean, I know my daughter's class it's 100 and maybe 170 of them, maybe even more. And how many are falling through the cracks is what I'm saying.
So the school, there are a couple of things. I'm going to start with the data piece and then go back to your concern about them not being in all every day. But the school is tracking the data. So I think I'm very encouraged by that. So they tracked the data, they looked at it and they said, you know what, we need to do something differently because they're not coming online. And so then they added where they come in person on Monday. So the school has to be commended for that piece. So that lets me know we're monitoring. And Ms. Eve is online and she can talk a little bit about the attendance process and the type of follow-up that takes place when students have so many absences. So that piece, and let's see what the data's like, and I'm sure that they're going to report back. The other piece around the children not being in 5 days a week, there's really not much we can do about it right now because of the safety and health measures because of COVID. So it's really a tough one because the school has to balance, you know, how many children are going to be in the school at any one time for safety reasons. So it's a tough one, Mrs. Tyrrell. There's not a lot that we can do to change that, but I think the school taking that step to add that Monday and rotating it in, I'm hoping that it will have a positive impact on student engagement, coming to school, hopefully wanting to be online and be a little more motivated, and hopefully improving student attendance, you know, as well, and a positive outcome on their grades. I'm hoping it will result on that. Thanks so much for sharing.
Another issue raised is signing up for Bermuda College for class of 2021. That's from Miss Bailey, Sharazan Bailey. Oh.
Good evening, Miss Bailey. Can you share with us your concerns so we can do our best to respond? Can you take off the mute, please?
Okay.
Thank you so
So
much.
yeah, I understand that if the students get a 3.0 average, they could attend Bermuda College for free. So I'm assuming they can sign up until after like the end of school. I'm not sure how that process.
So,
or do they sign up anyway? And then when it's determined what their grade point average is, they decide whether it's free or not.
so are we talking about students who are going to go into the dual enrollment program? Are we
No.
talking about students who will graduate in S4?
And then attend college.
Right.
And then attend Bermuda College.
Okay, so the students at the end of semester 1, which will be the end of January, shortly thereafter should receive a transcript. That transcript will have their cumulative GPA, and then the students can use that when they apply to Bermuda College. it is I don't think that students have to have a 3.0 to get into Bermuda College. Bermuda College has a CPT, as far as I know, a college placement test. And we actually have a parent online who also works at Bermuda College. So I'm not going to call any names, but if that parent is willing to share around the process, that would be helpful because the parent would be able to give very, accurate information. But from what I recall, the Bermuda College has a college placement test, and they use that for placement of students.
Yeah, well, I was saying is they don't need to get a 3.0 to get in, but if they have a 3.0, they're free. The tuition would be free.
Oh,
That's what that 3.0 is.
Yes, that is correct. Yes, and I'm hoping that students were told that from S1 when they came in so that they could work towards that target. And so you were just sharing that information, or you had a concern around it?
Yes, well, yeah, I was just sharing that, and then I wasn't sure, like, when do I actually sign him up? But like you said, it's the end of January.
Right, you can use that transcript, which is cumulative. It's not going to change too much, right? By the end of semester 2. And so if it's at, 2.97 or, bring it to their attention, and push your child to get over that 3.0. It can, it moves just a little bit in S4. The GPA changes just a bit.
Okay, thank you very much.
I've just been checking the Facebook comments, Mrs. Richards. There is a complaint here. A parent of multiple children at Clearwater wants to know why were they not informed about getting their children tested, and that the school would be closed all week yesterday when it was released. We found out via email from the school at 6:15 p.m. and it was released to the public at 6:30 p.m.
I do apologize to the parent. We have communication protocols that we have to follow, and then we follow those once we have approval to execute them. And so the approval for that came later in the day. And yes, we were concerned about that because we know that parents were waiting to get correspondence around what was going to happen Thursday and Friday. So I do apologize for that delay. We will continue to, work to do a better job around the timeliness of communication. I think we've improved with what we're sending out. We're doing this, improve with what we're doing, the Zoom meetings, the Facebook pages, the Scoop newsletter. But certainly, I do understand the position of the Clearwater parent. Yes, that information went out late, but I know that it may have gone out we did execute a protocol so that it went out to parents first before it went out to any group. And then we worked our way down. And I think closer to 7, it would have been released in the media. And we were conscious of that because we didn't want parents hearing about it from the media before they heard about it from the principal. We were able to achieve that, but the timeliness with, in terms of it going out, it was delayed. And, I acknowledge that and I do apologize for that.
Yeah, shouldn't have happened that way. Anyway, okay, so I'm going to go back to the advanced questions. Somebody wants to know about technical schools, new school redesign, and quarterly honors award assembly for people with 75% or over passing grade.
The individual online to explain what they're seeking.
She is, but I don't know if she wants to speak right now. Ms. Bean?
helps us to get clear about what the issues are so that we can
Sure.
respond.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
My
evening.
daughter attends Cedar Bridge, and S1, they had their first quarter assembly. Now, the way they did it was that all children had to be passing all classes in order to be acknowledged for their 75 or above. My concern is, why are we not acknowledging all students that are getting 75% above in any subject? Because we need to give them some sort of encouragement and some sort of focus that even though they might not be doing all classes, passing them, but they are passing some of them. I think we need to highlight that.
Thank you, Ms. Bean. And I, certainly am a proponent of celebrating students. And when I was in that role, we did a lot of celebrating of young people, and we know that it helps build their confidence and it can certainly motivate them. What I would recommend is that you can take that strategy. I would suggest you, email the principal with that idea and ask for the principal and the leadership team to consider it. So the students would have the honor roll, basically, or I should say 75 is the academic merit, but it would start at that. And then, but what you're saying is, let's highlight the children who are earning 75 in courses and who may not have made the honor roll so that we can encourage them. So I do encourage you to email the principal on that if you haven't already done so.
Employment work experience post-graduation. That's from Gina Mello.
I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson, I didn't hear the full statement.
She just wrote employment/work experience post-graduation.
Is the parent online?
Yes, I did see her. Miss Mello? She's not responding. Gina Mello?
I'm going to make a note to come back to that,
Yeah.
Mr. Johnson, and hopefully Ms. Mallow will be online with us so she can explain what's behind the statement.
And another statement here, special education from Karen Woolery. Special education. Is Miss Woolery there? No, I don't think she is. No.
I'm not sure what that would be about, Mr. Johnson. That's very broad, and we really,
Yeah.
I think when I mentioned this, I think last night, when we are asking persons to send in, they really need to send it as a question where they're probing so that we know exactly what they're looking for, so that we can, when we respond, the answers are of benefit to them and we can respond to their question, appropriately and adequately.
Okay, so somebody else wants to know, why do the children still have to wear the mask in the classrooms?
At the senior level?
Yep.
Okay.
Jelani Smith.
I think Jelani, I saw him on. Mr. Smith? Thank you for your question. The Department of Health stepped out safety and health protocols for every school level. At the middle and senior level, based on the science, what they've learned about the COVID-19 virus, based on what they know about how that virus can be transmitted in children of various ages, they have said that students at the middle and the senior need to wear masks, and all teachers in the system need to wear masks. So the mask is to protect the student so that, because remember, we're talking about little very fine droplets being in the air. We want the mask to protect the student from those droplets entering, you know, the nose, the mouth, etc. It's for the student's protection, and it's in line with the government protocol. And as government schools, our school staff are required to follow those protocols that have been set out by the Department of Health. I hope that helps answer the question, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Smith, are you there? No idea. And
Yes, sir.
another comment about,
Hello?
yes.
Sorry, I was having a problem with my mic.
Okay, did you hear the
Yeah,
response to your issue?
yes. You see, my problem was before this last little outbreak of COVID was hitting, the
Yeah,
students have been up there for I want to say almost 2 months, and they was still was told to keep their mask on while they was in classes. And I was like, I was trying to figure out, because if the kids were at home with the parents and whatnot, siblings and all that, they wouldn't have to wear the mask. But it's almost like they was almost quarantining at school per se, because if they were just going from home to school and back, it's almost like, you know what I mean. They left to go to the store or whatnot, and then they came back to the house. It was almost like they was being asked to quarantine. You know what I mean? It was kind of disturbing for me, like, because they 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 spend more time at the school than they did at the at home, and having to wear a mask for the 8 hours each day was kind of alarming. Because when I read the email when they were supposed to go back to school, it said that they was only supposed to having to wear the mask while they enter school and as they walked around. So when my daughter did tell me about her having to keep the mask on for the whole entire day, I just wanted to ask the question, because I mean, if they was up there for X amount of hours and like the normal time that they want you to quarantine is 14 days. So if they've been up there longer than the 14 days, I can't see why they would really have to have the mask on in the classrooms. I mind you, I understand why they have to have the mask on while they're walking around the campus or entering the campus. But I was just trying to figure out why it was a mandatory thing with the classrooms being the same each day, you know?
thank you, Mr. Smith. Based on my understanding, again, so for senior school students and middle school students, when they enter the premises, they need to have their mask on. As they go through the entry screening and as they go into class, they have to keep their mask on. Adults have to have their mask on throughout the day as well. And that's based on the protocols. You made a distinction about, you know, when you're home, it's a small environment. When they're going into school, it's, I mean, the senior schools have hundreds of children there, even though they have them alternating on the days when they come. And so when the protocols were being developed, they had to take in what's happening at the schools, and the senior school principals would have had input. So their staff would have said, listen, this is what takes place at our school. Consider this when you develop the protocols. So they would have had some input. Health also had to say, here's what we know about the COVID-19 virus. Here's what we know about it as it relates to children who are in that age band of 14 to 18. And so here are the best safety measures that we can put in place. And with the mask, it would have been, and it is still in place, where they wear it all day. They can take little breathers, you know, during class time and when they're outside as well, as long as they're keeping that physical distancing. So I hope that helps, Mr. Smith.
Yes, it helps a little bit.
I know I sense that you're concerned around the wearing of the mask all day, and it's a major adjustment for students as well as adults. So I do understand your concern. We have to balance that with what do we put in place to help children to stay as safe as possible and to mitigate and lessen the transmission of the COVID virus.
Yeah. Thanks.
And following up on that, somebody has a concern about what remedial actions will be taken with a possible increase in COVID cases.
Can we have that explained, please?
Mitchell James or Michelle James. Remedial actions taken with a possible increase in COVID cases. Is Miss James here? I mean, I'm just going to assume that they're concerned that since the cases are increasing, are there going to be any tightening up of measures, or what's the response from the health or from schools?
I'm not sure because, when I hear remedial, I'm thinking of, assisting children academically. I don't know. So that's why it's so important for us to have a bit of background.
True.
The individual asking the question. I didn't know whether they were thinking, well, with the increase, are we going to be out of school for a period of time? And then will we have to have measures to help children catch up? Or I'm not sure.
Okay, we might have to come back to that then.
Okay, I'm gonna put a note there.
Lauren Bell wants to understand access for parents to reports related to the child's school performance in comparison to local and overseas senior schools. How can parents play a more active role in the school and in supporting public education?
What was the first part, Mr. Johnson? I lost you when you started speaking.
She wants to, it sounds like she wants, parents need to be able to compare their child's performance to other local and overseas senior schools. So what kind of reports are available and do parents have access to it?
If a parent wants to have an indication of how their child is doing compared to other local and international students, then we have to start looking at common assessments that students are taking. Very often, let's start on the local scene, for example, and let's use the IGCSEs or GCSEs. There are parents who want to compare the results of their children with those at a private school. And I can see where, they'll say, okay, they're doing GCSEs. And so my child has performed and has, a B, and, what's the international benchmark for that particular GCSE? How did the majority perform? Those results are actually online. You would have to go to the respective boards. So if your child wrote a Cambridge IGCSE, you would have to Google and go to the Cambridge site and look for those results. If they wrote an EdXL GCSE, you would have to go to the EdXL sites. If you're looking for City and Guilds, you can Google that and look at their results. So you can actually do that to see how your child compared against the majority of students. So I hope, does that help, Mrs. Bell?
I don't believe she's here.
Oh, okay. But the boards do report out on the performance of all students who wrote particular assessments internationally, and then a parent can see where his or her child fell with respect to how the group performed.
Okay, Zena Woolridge, who is present, wants to talk about the response and the requirements to potential exposure to COVID.
Can you tell us a bit more, Ms. Woolridge?
evening, I should say.
Good evening.
I was just wondering if there was going to be a clear protocol for potential exposure and what that could potentially be, because it just seems like there's been so much. It's kind of been the response hasn't been consistent across the schools, and I don't know if that's because the incidences have been different, or
Correct.
could there be a set protocol so that parents can kind of have that in the back of their mind should something happen, we'd already be able to make some sort of arrangements.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Woolridge. And you're absolutely correct that the scenarios have been different at different schools. Because I asked similar questions around like that with the Department of Health. And I was advised that each school must be looked at separately. We have to look at the situation in that particular school. And then there's data collected around contact tracing. And then a risk assessment is carried out where the Department of Health is looking at how the school operated with the safety measures. And then they will use all of that data and make a decision. So with one school, well, with a couple of schools, you would have seen that it was just a class and then the classroom teachers and specialist teachers. In another school like Delwood, you would have seen that eventually after that risk assessment, a decision was made for all staff and students to have restricted movement. Then you would see with Clearwater that it's categorized as low risk. And so there was a need to go in and deep clean. All of that depends on the information that the Department of Health captures as they do the contact tracing, do the risk assessment, and they use that to make a decision. But there are some common things that will take place, Ms. Woolridge, that I can certainly share. And that would be that, parents, the Department of Health actually notify the principal by letter what has to take place with the school. And then that is sent out to the affected parents if it's just a class. If it's the school, then that letter would go out to the school. Now, if it's just the class, then the principal's also responsible for sending a letter to the whole parent body so that the parent body knows what is going on. Additionally, when any type of response is required because of a potential development with COVID, that school leader would also hold a Zoom meeting with the staff, would also hold a Zoom parent meeting in cases where children have to go out, if it's a class or the school. The principal would be responsible for communicating to the parents all the expectations around teaching, learning, and services. When it is time for the students to go back in, the Department of Health would send a letter to the principal. The principal would send it out to those who are affected if it's just a class. And again, if it's just a class, the principal would then send a letter to the whole family to say this class is returning. So those are some set things that would take place. And I hope that information is helpful for you.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much.
You're certainly welcome. Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, so there are some.
And then we can share some data as well.
Yeah, no, there are some things in the chat that I need to address
Sure.
before we go to that. This person is saying, and she doesn't want to speak, but it's a scenario that I need to paint to you because it might be
Sure.
helpful for others.
Yes.
It's a high-risk individual who has decided to keep their child home to do remote learning for their own safety and peace of mind. She says she's reached out to the school a few times to see how to do this officially, but there's been no response. A letter has been sent to attendants. Child attends classes online, but is still marked absent. What should the next step be?
Okay, I have a couple of questions.
What's up?
The parent, it sounds as if the parent has made a decision. And I know the parent is not going to speak online. And so what I do want to, in a case like this, there has to be a medical certificate. So I'm wondering if the letter that has been sent in is actually one from a doctor.
Mhm.
And if it isn't, and if it's just the parent making a decision, then that would be cause for concern.
That's the difference right there.
Okay, so then
So,
the parent
so the,
cannot just make a decision that I want to keep my child home and I, because I'm high risk, etc. The parent really should link with his or her doctor, and there has to be a medical note from a doctor to support it. Once that is in place,
Good.
then the process will kick into place for that student. So I
that
think
should be submitted to the principal.
part, yes,
The medical certificate should be submitted to the principal.
that is
And
correct.
then that will determine the coding for your
Correct.
child's attendance.
Yes.
And I'm assuming that if you're saying a letter was sent to attendance, I'm assuming that letter of attendance, because I'm not in receipt of any letters, that when you're saying attendance, that it would have been to the attendance officer of that respective senior
From the
school.
school. And if the letter was just from the parent, that would not be the same as having a letter from a doctor. So I just wanted to make, that may be the reason for this situation. And if the student is being marked as absent, unexcused,
Yeah.
it is because that procedure, the student is technically not excused because there is no medical
Right.
note that has come in.
If it is a medical, the child will be, we have a special code that we have put in for this time for COVID. If it has been approved by medical, it goes, your doctor will write a letter, it will go to the principal then submit it to the Department of Health. Department of Health is the one who will come back to determine whether or not it is the condition of whatever the child's condition is,
Right,
whether
yeah.
or not it is acceptable to be diagnosed as a vulnerable person. At that particular time, the coding, your child will be coded out for the entire school year, depending on what the medical condition is. Some children are only going to be coded out for the term, and then at the end of this term, after Christmas, it will be reviewed again in January.
Correct. Mr. Johnson, if the parent can under private give you a phone number, I would definitely call the parent after we go offline to see how I can assist.
The parent says the question has been answered.
Okay, I'm glad. All right then.
So we can move on. Miss Tyrrell has a question about transcripts. Miss Simonette Tyrrell.
Hi. So when Ms. Richards was talking about the transcripts, just an observation. So for like in my instance with my daughter who passed her GCSEs in middle school. So when she started in S2 classes, and unfortunately her transcript isn't reflecting her S1. So I don't know how, like, I guess I spoke to the guidance counselor. So the guidance counselor is trying to get it fixed.
Yes.
But obviously I'm at the stage where I need to start applying for university.
Yes.
So I need her transcript to be corrected. So we're gonna check back like at the end of this school term.
Yes.
But just for other parents, so they don't have to go through that. If the children do start classes and where they start, like my child started writing S2 classes. So right now she's doing S4 classes. So I just need the transcript to show her S1 and S2 English and math. Because right now it looks as like she only has the S1 and S2, when technically she should have all three. And you know, as they normally use the S3 grades for college applications. So I'm just trying to make sure, I just don't want to happen to anybody else. And because you have mentioned the transcript, I know the position that I'm in, so I have to wait until at least, I'm gonna give it to the end of this term and hopefully by January it'll be sorted out, but just food for thought if they can try to get that sorted out.
Yes,
So-
because it is a turnaround time in order to do that.
Yes.
And so to avoid any rush, because I know the person who handles the transcripts, there's often a time frame and parents often leave it to the last minute. So thank you, Ms. Terrell, for doing that.
Yes.
And it's not myself, but I am
No
aware
problem.
of
Yeah,
the
but yeah,
requests that come through. You know, I need it tomorrow. And of
yeah.
course, you know, we have other things, the person has other
Yeah,
things
no,
that
I
they're
don't
actually
need it right. Yeah,
processing.
definitely don't
Yeah.
need it right away. And like
Yeah.
I said, the
Yes.
guidance counselor is awesome. So she is not, obviously, I'm
Yeah.
not the only one in this position.
Right.
There's a
But you have
few,
to be ahead.
but just for you parents that are S1 or S2, and you might find yourself in that same position, just
Follow
know
along.
that you gotta look at your transcript early enough so
Right,
that
and that,
you can get those
Yes.
adjustments you need.
Right. Thank you.
that's it. Because if your child is coming in and, you know, going
Mhm.
into S2, then when you get your first semester transcript, that's when you check and to
Yep.
see whether the results are in there. I think
Exactly.
it's important. So we appreciate you raising that.
Thank you.
Okay, Sharon Gibbons, I know you sent a comment in. I don't quite understand it. Can you just voice that question, please, Ms. Gibbons? Teachers not coming on Zoom. Oh, is she here?
Hi,
Ah,
can you hear me?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a S3 and a S4 students.
Mhm.
Like the young lady said, they do go to school Mondays, every other Monday. But the thing is, when they're on Zoom and the teachers are either out sick or they have substitute teachers, they're sitting online for almost the whole class and no one either lets them in or somehow they're in class and the teachers are not coming on. And I seem to be calling school every week because I have to call to find out, okay, are you got a class today or are you coming online? Or one teacher would say, oh, I forgot she was in my class. So my thing is, if teachers are out sick or got substitutes, the same way I feel that they could email parents to say, okay, they're missing assignments. I feel that teachers, they should email the parents so that the students are not sitting on their laptops waiting to go in class.
Thank you. That's really good feedback because we want to ensure that students are maximizing their learning. Ms. Gibbons, so you're saying under normal circumstances, this is not an issue, but it is an issue if a teacher is out and there is a substitute? I just want
I call the school practically every week to say, hey, my daughter's online. Are you got class today? Because I'm very keen when it comes to my kids' education.
yes.
And this, like I said, the same way teachers can email parents and say, hey, your daughter's missing an assignment for this class. I haven't received her assignment. Why is it that they can't email the parents to say, hey, this teacher's not going to be on Zoom class today? So that my daughters, because, okay, me, I have them screenshot every class they go in so I know that they're in class.
Oh,
So
wow.
they're coming to me and they're saying, hey, mom, I've been in class for almost 40 minutes and class is getting ready to end and my teacher's not let me in, or I'm sitting on Zoom because somehow they've been let in and the teacher's not coming in or the substitute is not coming in. I even called the school one day and said, hey, my daughter's been sitting online. Why have you not let her in? She says to me, I'm leaving school. I said to her, that's not my problem. My daughter's been sitting online all this time. I need to know why is it that you didn't let her in class?
And did you get a response for why she wasn't let into class?
No. I even emailed the principal. I emailed the counselors. I emailed the deputy principal because like I said, I made them screenshot. I send them screenshots in my emails to say, hey, my daughter's been online. Why is this teacher not letting her in? Because at the same time, you get the attendance from the government offices calling saying, hey, your
Yes.
child's been marked absent because they're not in class. So now with me, I'm seeing why, because not only me getting frustrated because I'm calling the school every week, but they're getting frustrated because they're not being let in class. And, they're both, one's S3 and one's S4. And the one that's in S4, she's going to be graduating. So, she needs to get her work started and this is what's going on.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbons. What we will do is pass on the feedback. We really need to have not only a teacher strategy, but a student strategy when that happens, because 40 minutes is a very long time to be waiting. And so I think the students have to be empowered with the strategy as well. And they need to know, if I don't get online, when class starts, who do I immediately, can I send an email to, who do I contact? So that there's this process that kicks in that allows them to get into that class, because to miss out creates gaps. So we know that.
Yeah, because like I said, some of them have been substitute, and some of the substitutes are just not letting them online. Or I call a teacher and say, hey, my daughter's waiting for you to come on, let her in class. And she's stating, oh, I forgot, I didn't even realize she was in my class, or I forgot she's in my class. That's not helping me, and that's not helping my daughter.
Mrs. Gibbons, another quick question, and I'm probing only because I'm just trying to delve a little deeper with the situation. Is the class, you said one daughter is S3 and S4, are you finding that when it's a class that perhaps, are you finding that when it is it an out of year level class where the teacher's saying, oh, I forgot that the student is in my class? Is there any pattern there?
No, it's sometimes it
It's
be
an S3 class, and the student, your daughter's S3, it will be an S3 class, but the teacher
right.
Still saying, oh, I forgot, but wouldn't there be other children on?
Yes, it's just had other kids come along, and they're all just sitting there waiting for the teacher, and nobody's there.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you. It's very helpful, but we will follow up with the school, and we need a strategy for children, students.
Right,
so
because
empowered.
like I said, I feel if the teachers are not going to be in class, they should email the parents to say, hey, they're not going to have math because the teacher's not there today. So that they're not sitting on there wondering why they're not being let in class.
Yes.
Or if there's a substitute, the substitute should be coming online.
I concur, and Ms. Gibbons, so we need a strategy. As I said, we've got to empower children so they know, students, sorry, these are young adults, so they know what to do. But then there also has to be something on the adult end as well. So I think a two-pronged approach to addressing the issue.
Yeah.
So is this a frequent problem, Ms. Gibbons? It happens a lot?
She said she's calling.
I call every week. The
Wow.
secretary at the school knows me by heart.
And have you officially written into the principal?
Yes, I have, but I haven't got any feedback yet.
Okay, thank you. And this is let me say, this is the forum for bringing forward any issues. It gives us an opportunity to work with the school to get it resolved. And so we're going to do that. And then we're hoping that when you will come online, when we have our next check-in session, and you can update us on how things are going and whether there's any improvement.
No problem.
All righty. Thank you, Ms. Gibbons.
You're welcome.
Okay, another question. Is there any update on community service requirements for S4?
We will have an update shortly. I did have a conversation last week with the technical officer from the department around community service and co-curricular in relation to graduation. It is on the radar, and we will be communicating with parents shortly on that. So Johnson, are we going to have time to share some data with parents?
Okay, I don't know if, well, we've got another 15 minutes or so, but there are just a couple of things that I need to raise here. Somebody wants to ask about the communication of homework assignments and the use of different classroom software applications. Mr. Phillips, Chris Phillips, where are you?
Yes, can you hear me?
Mr. Phillips on. Good evening, Mr. Phillips.
Yes.
Yeah, you can hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. My daughter's in S1 at Berkeley, and there's a push once they get to high school to put the onus and the responsibility on the child for everything. And I understand the premise. But as you know, there's children that are very responsible, and then there's all the way down to the children that is not responsible, and then everyone in between. And I feel that this push is great for the really responsible kids, but not great for the kids that are less responsible, and actually stresses the divide even further. I'm having trouble keeping up with my daughter. I find that multiple classes are using multiple tools. One person uses Edmodo, another person might be using another tool. Yesterday we had the parent-teacher conferences, and because my daughter hadn't given me all the Zoom codes on the Monday that was given by most of the teachers, I actually have her password, and I had to go into her email and collect everything, find the 3 that I was missing, send out an email, all while I'm at work. I had 2 teachers come back right away. These are my Zoom codes. I had one teacher come back and say, this is where you can find my Zoom codes. And I'm pulling my hair out and I'm going, I didn't ask for directions. I asked for the Zoom codes. So it was communicated to the kids. Said, yeah, but maybe I don't have that kid that's going to give me the information, but she does have a father that is committed to her as well. And I feel like I'm being cut out of the loop and being disempowered to help my daughter because the communication isn't there, and they're trying to port everything through the kid. Now, in their defense, they've all said, you can reach me at any time with any questions you have, but I can't ask a question on a topic that I don't know exists. So I do feel like there's a lot of good IT tools that they are using, and I know of some of the things. I know Geo and all the guys. But it seems the one thing that I've had overseas for years is where when the homework is given, everyone can photocopy it and hand it out to everybody, but why isn't there a central place for all the homework to go up? If my daughter's left it at school and it's due the next day, I should be able to go online, print that down, give it to her, let her finish it. Just because she made a mistake once in 5 minutes leaving the class, I've got that whole night to get it. But I've tried to tell her, collect the numbers for the kids in the class. Maybe somebody can send you a photo. But I can do these things. Like, I can help her with them. But I feel like there's too much being put on the kids' shoulders. I understand the spirit of it, but it doesn't cover the whole gamut of responsibility for kids. And I feel like some are being left behind. I don't know if anyone else feels the same way.
So may I just probe a little bit more, Mr. Phillips? So you're saying that different teachers are using different online platforms for instruction? So for the lessons, delivering the lessons?
Yeah, so I was for her S1 English class, I was told about an Edmodo or something like that.
I'm familiar with Edmodo.
Right, and so it's almost like a little social media tool, and they can post things and everything like that. I found out about it. I'm sure it was given to my daughter, but I found out about it a couple days ago. I signed on to Edmodo. Somebody had been using it at Clearwater the previous year, so I'm seeing M3 Health, and I don't see the class. And then the teacher goes, oh, you're not registered, and does something in the background, and all of a sudden I can see her class again. Oh, this is the new code. I'm like, but if you make these tools, like, shouldn't there be a checkbox to say, this parent signed on, this parent signed on, this parent signed on? Like, why is it December? And I feel like half the job's been completed. They set up the platform, but they haven't gone to the extra step to say, is this person registered? Is this person? Who are the stakeholders for this particular child? And make sure that they're in communication with somebody. Like, I mean, I understand university, sure, like it's on the person who want to get their education, and the spirit is there, but you've got a kid fresh out of middle school, and I I feel
Transition.
like my kid is missing an opportunity here.
Yes. And coming from middle to S1 it's a transition point, and it's a critical one. It's a major shift. I'm going from being at the top of my school level now, I'm at the bottom, I'm at S1, I'm transitioning to a new school, new routines, new expectations, and all of that. So it's really the research will support it. We have to be very careful with how we support and how we manage our S1 students. So before I share some things that you might want to consider, there are other students online from the Barkley Institute. I don't know if we have any S1 parents or we have any, we have parents of children and students in S3 and S4. Can you share a bit about the platforms? I thought that the Barkley Institute was using Frog and that was across the board. So any other parent having that type of experience with various online platforms?
Hi, it's Simonette. My daughter actually, everything for her is just email. So she's in S3. So they have the Barkley email. I mean, I guess if the teachers did have to use Frog, she has the ID and everything for Frog, but she's at the stage, she's doing S4 classes. So she's at the stage where she's just emailing everything in. So, so I don't know.
So Mr. Phillips, have you been able to speak with the year level counselor?
I don't think I could call their name right now. So no, I haven't.
So you haven't.
Year level counselor. Sorry.
So you're saying that you're not aware of so there have been no activities around that, et cetera, in terms of the meeting the counselor,
I can guarantee I've been told who it is, but I can't pull it right now who it is.
Is it Mr.
Diamond Outerbridge, maybe? Or that's your advisor.
Is it Mr. Durant?
At Barkley, the counselor for year 1?
Yes. Is it Mr. Durant?
No, it's Mr. Durant is the educational therapist. It's Dr. Daniel Santucci.
Right.
He's new. He just started there.
How about Miss Wharton? Is Miss Wharton the year head?
I was just going to say they will have a year level head as well. That would be a good contact.
Okay. I did get an email about having low grades in Spanish. And then I responded back right away. So I'm concerned about this. I responded back right away.
Yes.
I'm welcome. Let's talk about this. And then 2 weeks went by and I went, okay. So I copied the principal. Can I get an answer? 2 seconds later, oh, sorry. Like, well, how concerned are you? So
Mr. Phillips, the year head can be of assistance, and it might be with Zoom, you could have key teachers online for a Zoom meeting facilitated even by the year head. Their role is to, look out for and support. So there's a year level team. There will be a counselor, there will be a year head, there will be an ET assigned to the year level as well. And so you have those support persons there to assist you. And they've been at it for many, many years. And, the goal would be to come up with strategies to assist your daughter.
Yep. So I'll send an email in to the teacher. And I don't want to get veer off too far from what the theme of my comment is, which
is, it's around the responsibility level and what's being put on children.
So that, I think it's great to put the responsibility on the kids. I just don't want in the process to disempower the parent from assisting as well.
So your feedback's going to be important to that S1 team.
Yeah.
Yes, so it's important if you can reach out tomorrow and to set up a Zoom meeting.
Yeah,
so that
I'll do that.
Talk with them about the concern and also share about, your comments around wanting to be empowered as a parent and what you would need in order to help your child to be successful.
I think Ms. Squire has something to make a comment.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, Ms. Terrell. Thank you. Yes, so I have a student in S1. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
And I have found, I'm going to be honest, Mr. Phillips, Power School becomes your best friend. I am on Power School a few times a day now that I have it on my phone. I've had it now since my guys were in middle school. When I say that is the best tool, I will go on it throughout the course of the day. The minute I see a grade that I'm concerned about, I see something that, may be missing, immediately no, let me take it back. First of all, I do have a conversation with my son because I am trying to empower him. He can usually give me the answer, but when he doesn't, I reach out to the teachers, and I'm just going to say my experience with every teacher on the S1 team at Berkeley has been positive. I can speak to S2 English because my son is in the S2 English, and that teacher does use Edmodo. And my son showed me that on his laptop. So we have the relationship where right away, he knows mommy is going to be on it. And he shows me what he needs to show me as well in terms of the Edmodo, which is what the S2 teacher is using for the English. And trust me when I say every teacher at that institution at S1 has responded to me, and it's usually within the day, if not 2 days, in terms of any concerns I have about work. So I would highly encourage you. I don't know, do you have Power School and are you on it?
I live, breathe IT. I've got Power School on my phone. I've got Power School on her phone.
Okay.
I mean, obviously you can see the CCS here, but I deal with Geo
Oh,
in the IT department constantly. I know Callie Williams at Barclay. I know everything with IT when it comes to the education portion of it. I even sold the access points from America's Cup to education, so I'm deep.
Okay.
Well, I get the little alerts and everything.
Right.
So one of the challenge I have with the Power School, and it's a great point to bring up. It's a great tool, and I agree with it. So I'll have something of mice and men homework 5, 6, and 7.
Right.
And then I ask her, okay, so where's your homework? And she goes, what homework?
Oh.
And then I go, I'm out of ideas. You know what I mean? I've got nowhere to go from there. I can't get the homework. She doesn't have the contact for her friends. And then I'm just stuck. So
well, I would really,
if there was
if I
a
were
central,
you,
sorry.
Yeah, if I were you, I would definitely reach out to the teachers, okay? I'll put my educator hat on now that there are times when we do upload things at the school that I teach at online. There are other times when I may give out paper copies. Okay, and that's, again, I know it's the challenge sometimes in terms of the students taking things home that they need and what have you. But if you really just have a heart-to-heart conversation with the teachers in S1, explain your challenges, that you were there, and I'm sure you have, you're the supportive parent, you want to help when you can. They may even be able to give you some strategies, and they may take that little extra eye, look out for your daughter until she is able to manage and organize herself on her own. So they'll help you through that process, until she gets it. And again, I can only speak on my experience with all those teachers, and it's been wonderful so far.
Yeah, I think
good luck.
Like I think they're wonderful teachers. I spoke, and I apologize for hijacking the whole meeting here, but every one of them seemed like a lovely person, and every one of them seemed interested. There was not one teacher there that felt that I felt was, not happy with what she was doing. It was just getting a paycheck. You know what I mean? Every one of them seemed wonderful. I'm more concerned with, like, if we set a standard of doing it one way for every class, you know what I mean? Of there's an assignment, this is where you find it, instead of this teacher uploads it, this teacher gives a paper copy, this teacher does word of mouth. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean, but it's hard.
I can keep up.
I see what you mean, but it is hard. Just from my educator side now, we have that autonomy oftentimes to do it a little differently. And I know for some teachers, for instance, in S1, some of them, they have the work, they can't take the textbooks home now, and they may have to take pictures of the assignments, because then you might have a teacher that would have to go in and potentially scan 30 page, print and scan 30 pages to upload. So I do understand your point, but I think just letting the teachers know, and perhaps in some situations, they might be able to email something to you, in terms of just working with you individually, as opposed to, if they decide that they're not necessarily going to upload everything online. That's the thing, but good luck with it though. Good luck.
All right, thank you. I won't harp on it anymore.
Can I say something? Can I say, I agree with Michelle. Power School is definitely,
Yeah,
awesome.
I love it.
Awesome. Just send me emails if my son was late at, like signed on late, and then that's what it's saying. It's
Yeah.
Because, you know, if I sent a message to one of the teachers, they reply. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
good, good.
My son's in S4 at Berkeley, and he said all his classes are with Zoom,
Yes,
and he hasn't had any problems. He's actually adjusted very well with the online learning.
good, good. Well, we're hoping that when Mr. Phillips joins us again, when we check in the new year, that, and we hope that you will be able to join us, Mr. Phillips, that you'll be able to loop back and give us an update on how things are going, because we really would be truly interested to see if things have improved.
I think I owe it to everyone here for the amount of time that
Yes,
I've
you
taken to
do.
give you guys an
And
update.
if we
And I keep pushing and I'm fighting the good fight from all angles, the IT departments, everywhere from the parent. I try and support all of it. So
yes. Well, we appreciate you sharing, and your feedback around the central place or having, you know, a central place for homework is certainly noted. But we're going to pass, I mean, we're still going to pass feedback on, but as the parent, we are encouraging you to consider some of the options that were presented and to take, you know, action based on what you deem is appropriate for you and your child.
I have to. I
All
cannot
right.
fail.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, we didn't get to the data, so it's.
No, I do have something from Facebook. I just want to make sure we address what parents are bringing up. The Mrs. Richards is referring to the survey we did. I don't know if any of you took that survey. We will be disseminating that to all the report to all parents anyway. And we do take the opportunity when there's time to actually show you some highlights of the results, but I'm not sure if there is time because it's already past 8 o'clock. And there are some comments on Facebook that I think we should address. Somebody's on Facebook is saying there are S4 students whose transcripts are still incorrect since their S1 year. And another person wants to know if a child is kept home because they have a runny nose and coughing but no fever is present. What is the protocol for this child to join the class for remote learning?
Any parent online had that situation occur?
Oh, this is somebody on Facebook at
No,
the
no, I
moment.
know, but I'm saying any of the parents who are online, you know, do you have a child who was out because of, you know, he or she wasn't well? And then what was the strategy that was used? Did your child go online? Did your child participate in classes? Because it sounds as if this parent has a child who was out but didn't have access to remote learning at the senior level. And those classes are, it's my understanding, hybrid, so that the teacher's delivering to those in the classroom as well as those who are outside of the classroom at the same time?
Yes, I've had that experience.
And
Only my child's core classes are up and running online, and when he's at home because he's been sent home because he had a runny nose or something, because he has asthma. So it's not like he's got any fever in him just because it's asthma. I have to keep him home at times because of the situation, and he could go online for his core classes, but not for his other classes.
And is your concern that he cannot go on for the other classes?
I did mention that to the head of the S2, the head of the S2, and
Yes.
that's how I found out that they have all the core classes, they do it, but they're still working it out with the other classes.
And were you told when they would have that resolved for the encore?
No, I was not.
Then we encourage you to loop back so that you can have a timeline.
Sure.
Okay.
Hi, Ms. Richards.
Hello, Mrs. Lightbourne. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
We're quarantined because we dealt with.
Yes.
So my son's been home. He's an
That's
S2.
right. Yes. Yes.
He's had access to everything on Zoom. Even his art teacher was on with him yesterday, so he's been able to get into everything.
Good. Okay.
I
thank
just
you for
I
that.
emailed them on the weekends. They knew ahead of time because some of them weren't online because their kids are full face-to-face. So I sent an email ahead of time so they were aware that he wouldn't be there so that they can go on for him this week.
Yes, thank you for that. So the parent who was just online, please link with, I would say the year head, because what you're saying, Mrs. Lightbourne, even for the encore, you've been able to get access. Your son has been able to get access, even though the classes are basically on-site classes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So his English teacher is full on site, but she came on for him. And art is fully on site, but she came on yesterday for him as well.
Another parent that's out in the chat that's saying that her son, the same thing at Delaware. And she says that she contacted the year head, the principal, and the advisor, and she has access as well.
So if we can have the parent who had Patricia on the screen, contact the year head around needing to have access for the encore or the elective courses. Thank you. Some good sharing to help each other.
Thank you.
I do believe Mr. Wilson wanted to follow up on something from earlier, much earlier in this meeting. Do you still want to do that, Mr. Albert Wilson?
No, we're good, I think, because I know time is starting to get away from us a bit. But what it was, I might as well just say it now.
Yeah, I think it's worth it, to be honest, because there's anxiety around that.
Yeah, what it was, Mr. Smith was concerned with the mask, right? With wearing the mask in class all day. But I do remember in previous meetings, Ms. Richards, I think you said that they have time that they can take the mask off. And I think you also stated that depending on the social distancing in the classroom, they may be able also to take the mask off. It depends on how many kids was actually in the classrooms, because I know the concern is with most parents that, I mean, even with myself wearing a mask all day, it does become very, very uncomfortable. And then just breathing all that stale stuff back inside is not good. So they do need the break. But I think you did state in previous meetings that the depending on the class, the size of class, if social distancing was afforded, that then they could take the mask off. And then I think as they do move in different areas within the school, as long as social distance was adhered to, that they could take the break from the mask.
So it's my thank you, Mr. Wilson. It's my, and I think I want health, probably they're the best persons to determine what this looks like. But yes, students can take breaks with the mask. They should do that. I remember one of the health officials saying they could even just step outside the door and do it quickly. So I think we, at this juncture, need to get some specifics really on what that looks like, because I think we're having some challenges around that, just based on the feedback from parents from each of the groups. And in terms of whether they can have it off, depending on the class sizes, I think at the senior schools, we're looking at up to 18, which I don't think would allow for that. I remember visiting a school. It was a very large room and there were about 6 children. And so they were just, spaced right out, and they had their mask off. But they would have been more than 6 feet apart. They would have gone through the entry protocols of, washing their hands and all of that. But it's my understanding that we're dealing with class sizes of up to, 16 and 18. So it's going to be unlikely that children are going to be able to be in classes with their mask off during the class time.
Understood.
Yes.
Thank you.
But we're going to see I think we need to drill down and see exactly what that looks like if I'm taking a break, because I don't think we've sent out something in writing specifically around that.
Right, because I
Thank
do
you,
remember
Ms.
that she did state that the lady from the medical team did state that there were going to be opportunities where they could possibly take breaks from wearing the mask. Because I know it was one parent that was really
Yes.
concerned that her child would not be able to wear a mask all day. And as adults, when I can't even wear my mask all day.
Yes, yes.
So, I need to take a break as well.
Yes, but students have to be permitted to take a break from the mask. That is correct.
Okay.
And, classes again have to be sitting where children are all facing in the same direction so that they're not this way and that way where, the air is moving and going into their faces. They have to be facing, the same direction. And I do recall when we were online, this would have been before schools opened, very clear instructions around students can take breaks from their mask.
Yes, I do
I
remember.
do recall, one health official saying the student could step outside for a few moments, but we need to know what that looks like if a student is in the class. What does it look like if the student is taking the mask? I think we have to, taking a break from the mask. I think we have to drill down a bit more so that everybody can see what that looks like. I
Yes.
think that will be helpful.
Thank you.
Certainly, and thank you for raising that and helping us to drill down with it.
Okay, I think that's the end of all the comments. Should we take another 3 to 4 minutes on the survey results?
I know that if parents are willing to do that, but I know that I'm going to have to go offline, Mr. Johnson. And I try not to keep parents, I
Yeah.
try to respect the time that we say, because remember, we've had feedback from parents who'll say, you're going over. So I will take my cue from the parents. I don't want you to feel obligated to stay online.
Well, I think they're going to get it anyway. So we need some time to analyze it. So it's already 8:15. Or do parents want to stay on to
Can
look
we, I
at
hope
this?
if this is, can you use your reaction?
Thumbs up if you want to look at the results of the survey. We've got a few thumbs coming up. Okay, let's do it.
You've got 4 people.
All right, well, all right, there's a few more now. The
But
meeting.
don't be, okay, don't feel obligated though, Mr. Johnson, if you all have to go, but I just thought.
Oh, are you?
I
I'm
want-
happy to do it. I mean, it's just up to
Okay.
you. I mean,
No, I want to hear as well. Go ahead.
okay, it won't take too long. I'm just going to do a quick overview.
Mr. Johnson, I'm going to hold you to 5 minutes because
All right.
we have to respect the time of parents.
Yes. Okay. Can we all see that?
And this is just for senior school
Yeah.
parents who responded.
So we did a survey and there was 436 respondents altogether, of which 114 were senior school parents. And key questions were around the COVID mitigation measures. Are they too restrictive, not restrictive enough, or just right? 75% said they were just right. 10% said they were not restrictive enough, but 15% said they were too restrictive. Most parents agreed or strongly agreed, 73% of the respondents agreed or strongly agreed that it's in their child's best interest to attend school in person. But 20% were neutral and 6% disagreed. Roughly the same 60 odd percent said it's in their own best interest that their child continue to attend school in person. And most of the respondents, about 86%, felt that their child has adjusted well to the safety and health protocols at schools. And another 76% said the child's school was doing a good job with the protocols. So it's good news all around. There's quite a few people who are neutral around it. Children's learning is progressing well. 55 agreed. Another 20% strongly agreed. 10% disagreed with that. Quality of teaching at the child's school is at a good standard. We had 70% either strongly agreed or agreed with that statement. Confidence around the child's physical safety and health. 60% were confident, another 9% were strongly confident, but we have 25% unsure and 6% not at all confident. How concerned are you about your child's psychological and emotional health? 44% are not at all concerned, but there's 24% who are slightly concerned, 14% somewhat concerned, and around 12% quite concerned, and 6% extremely concerned. We did ask people to elaborate on some of these questions. As one parent says, a child is worried about catching COVID-19 and putting his family at risk, knowing that his mother is in a high-risk category. But we didn't get too many comments about that. Issues of concern, top priority for 40% of respondents was how will the child catch up with learning? Mask wearing policy was a top concern for 33%. And that was it, really. So that's a very brief overview. I did it in 4 minutes, Mrs. Richards.
You're funny, Mr. Johnson. So, but thank you, Mr. Johnson, and thank you, parents. Can you use your reaction button to let us know whether the session this evening was helpful? It's just on the bottom right-hand side on mine anyway, if you can let us know, or you can leave a response in the chat. But we are here to serve you. We are here to support you and staff and students. Thank you so much for the feedback at school. Please look out for the scoop, because the scoop's going to give you some follow-up actions that have been taken and additional information around each of the year level, what's come out of each of the year level town meetings. We want you to know that what you share with us, what you request of us, is taken seriously. So we do want to loop back and say, here's what we've done, here's what we know as a result of what you asked. So that's coming. Thank you again, and wishing you well, and of course your precious children all of the very best. Stay safe and stay well. Thank you again. Thank you for facilitating, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Okay. Good night.
Thank
Good night.
Dr.
Thank
Taylor.
you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
All right.
Oh, new message. Oh, good night.
2 seconds.
Oh, what? I was about to end the meeting.
No,
What do you
hold
want?
on.
Okay.
You can start recording.
I'm sorry.